Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm wide awake and I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn and I'm maybe less than wide awake.
He called himself loopy. So, actually, folks, we're going to have a great session today. Thank you for joining us on the Weekly Travel Alert. Every Tuesday, 10:30, we send out 100,000 emails across the globe to people. It's called the Weekly Travel Alert. We've been doing it now for over 30 years. We have people all over the world respond and say, hey, we like this. Last week, we did a fun thing on if airlines sold paint.
Airlines sold paint. With Al Hess.
Yeah, with Al Hess, our good buddy. Now, today, we've got some amazing news for you that we're going to talk about. This session is sponsored by Executive Travel. You can find us on the web where?
At executivetravel.com.
And on YouTube.
At Executive Travel, all spelled out.
And that all makes sense. We are obviously on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. So you can listen to that. We even have a radio show called Executive Travel Talk on KLIN Radio. So thank you for joining us today. We're going to have fun, and you're going to be amazed. The first heading on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert reads, wow, airfares drop like a rock in May. Your best opportunity to travel the world this summer. Paul, we run now a airfare travel index. Mm-hmm. We do it for domestic airfares, international European coach class, mm-hmm. and international European business class. Those are the giant markets for the U.S., and so last month we measured it, and just today I measured it, and you're not going to believe the results.
I'm going to guess. They went down.
They went down.
Prices went down.
How long have we been doing this?
Doing the podcast? Oh, over a year.
And how long have we been in the saddle at Executive Travel?
I've been here 31 years, and we've been going for 39.
39. I don't recall prices this low for summer travel. For summer travel, maybe in the winter.
Mm-hmm, off-season.
But something is happening around the world that people aren't filling both domestic planes. They're not filling international coach seats. Mm-hmm. And they must not be filling even the business class, or we wouldn't see what we're going to talk about in just a minute.
Not the pricing we're seeing.
All right, here we go. The second headline reads, Executive Travel's Domestic Airfare Index shows, get this, 11% drop in the last 4 weeks.
Okay.
4 weeks, it's dropped 11% in just 1 month. What we do is we measure the airfares from Omaha, which is the center of the U.S., to New York, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Orlando. And then we did it in April, and we just did it in May. And the average fare to those destinations dropped nearly 11%. We were at $248 round trip, which was great last month, mm-hmm. and it dropped even further down to $221.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, and we check that for July, August, September, and October, the next 4 months out, ahead of us. So that's great news. If you're thinking about traveling, I think if you look at the headlines around us, I could see where people could get kind of queasy. Yeah. War in Israel,
tariffs,
Ukraine, tariffs. They've got, the stock market's up one day and down 4 days, and they might say, hey, maybe I need to hold on to my cash. But the point is, that makes an opportunity. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking of traveling, now is the time to lock that baby in, because the prices are really great domestically. And this reminds me, Paul, that not only do vacation travelers can take advantage of it, but business travelers, this is the time to lock in your prices mm-hmm. for travel, not only this summer or this fall, when you're after the kids are back in school.
Start looking a little farther out.
The business traveler, and we're going to talk a little bit later on about hotel prices.
Okay.
And so it's becoming the golden summer for travel. And we're excited about it, both for domestic and business travelers.
Okay.
All right. The next item I have on the Weekly Travel Alert that comes out every Tuesday reads, International Coach Airfares plunge 22%. It's the biggest summer of bargains in years. I don't remember ever seeing summer fares this low. So what we did is we took prices from Omaha. We compared them to Paris, London, Rome, Amsterdam, and Athens. We took this data on May 23rd, And we took the average, and from last month, 4 weeks ago, it fell a stunning 22%. So we do it as measure it in July, August, September, and October. And they dropped down to $680 round trip. Can you imagine you can go to Rome for $680?
That's less than what it cost to go to Florida 4 months ago.
I know. Didn't you spend $900?
I had a $900 coach class ticket
come on,
to Florida.
Paul. Yeah. Well, I know it was, even when I was traveling back in April internationally, it was expensive.
I'd say I actually did Hawaii a couple weeks back, and Hawaii was $600. So even if you don't want to jump the pond, you can get some of these destinations that typically would be much more expensive and take advantage of that.
If you look at it, this is probably over 50% cheaper than it was a year ago to travel internationally in coach class to Europe. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever thought about it, even at those prices, you could do a long weekend. Go to Paris for the weekend, Rome for the weekend. Just enjoy a nice 4-day, 3-night stay.
Get away.
That's right. Cheaper than going to Vegas.
It is.
Hey, the next headline on this week's Weekly Traveler reads, "Holy smokes, this might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fly business class to Europe." Paul, I'm looking through this. We also put together an index, Executive Travel does every month, and this is our European business class in airfare index. And last month, I thought they were low. The average round trip for business class to Europe was $35.56 to the cities of Paris, London, Rome, Amsterdam, and Athens.
Okay.
In May, it dropped another 7%.
Wow.
It dropped down to $3,304.
Wow.
And I've just never seen it that low.
Not for summer travel.
No.
I mean, last year it was $8,000 to hit these months and do business class. So,
ladies and gentlemen, if you've never been in a lay flat bed, right? If you've never had that good wine and that champagne, the champagne, and if you fly the fancy carriers, you get escargot, you get the
caviar,
fish eggs,
the caviar,
the Russian caviar. You can be a mucky muck.
You can travel like Steve.
Oh, hey, so these are amazing. Actually, I've seen prices for the Economy Plus,
that are this expensive.
expensive.
I mean, that's. I was looking at that the other day. Business class was only about $600 more than Economy Plus,
and there's a
night and day difference. Yes.
Dramatic difference, night and day, as Paul says, the difference in those two. So, great time to buy your airline tickets, and think of that, business travelers as well. That business traveler that's going to Europe this fall should lock it in right now.
Yep.
This is the Lock In Your Airfare show, ladies and gentlemen. That's the theme. That's the takeaway from this. It's time to lock in your airfares because it ain't going to get any lower than what I'm seeing unless the world falls apart or something. So anyway, now here's another tidbit that's going to blow you away. U.S. hotel occupancy rates fall below 63%. What does that mean? 1 out of every 3 hotel rooms is empty.
Every night.
Ladies and gentlemen, so even the U.S. hotels are feeling the pinch. The international travelers aren't coming to the U.S. The domestic travelers, post-COVID, were just on a tear to get out of Dodge and see the USA. And now that's starting to slow down.
And that's the tariffs and all the talks there are having a lot of impact on that. And a lot of that comes to business travelers. The unknowns of, if you're going to sell or going to buy in another country, until you know how this is all going to play out, you're potentially going to pause that. So I think that's a big part of it, is you've got less people coming this direction from other countries, which is freeing up a lot of seats and making it so that these deals on the airlines and the hotels are going to be great opportunities for the summer.
Yeah, I would say this is our opportunity weekly traveler because if you're a traveler, this is like the greatest news ever. And the only thing I can see negative would be maybe if you're traveling internationally, the drop in the U.S. dollar to the euro, and we've seen about an 8 to 10% drop in the last 6 months from there. So, but other than that, you're still seeing great value.
Yeah, well, you're going to find it with the savings. So, the things are going to cost a little more once you get there, but you get the savings on the airfare and potentially the hotel, and you'll end up in a better place than you would have last year for sure.
Thanks for joining us on this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.